Hello. Hi, I'm Anne-Caroline Tanguy. People call me AC. It's easier, and I run marketing for AWS for public sector in France. And I'm with...
Hi, I'm Alicia. I'm a marketing specialist intern for social media AWS.
And today we have the immense privilege to be your room hosts. Just a couple of points, really housekeeping points. First of all, we have two exits here on the left. We have a third one, which is an exit, a security exit, so please use the ones on the left. The bathrooms are also just on the left. You turn, you go out, turn on the left, and here they are. If you haven't done it yet, I encourage you to download the app, AWS Events.
Yeah, it's AWS America's Events, and for iOS users, you can download it at the App Store, and then for Android users, you do have to follow a link, but it's spread out all throughout the venue, so make sure to keep an eye out for that link.
And please turn your phones on mute or off during this session. That is Amazon Connect, create an exceptional contact center. And I'm happy to introduce Mike. Mike Boss.
Thank you, ladies.
Give him a hand.
Okay, good afternoon. So we were joking in the back before we started, so we're gonna have to make sure that we have to advertise any events after, which are probably social. Hopefully everyone's got a chance to come out and join us and get a few minutes to connect after the session. We did want to mention, we're gonna have a little bit of time at the end for Q&A, but if we run a little long, the speakers will kind of hang out up in the front here, and feel free to come and grab us and ask any questions we didn't get to answer. So by way of quick introduction, my name is Mike Vozas. I am with Amazon Web Services. And my role is I care for our public sector community here in Americas. So our federal customers, our state and local government, education, non-for-profits, and our tech companies that serve those verticals. You'll meet here in a little bit Jason Schaefer. He's my solutions architect. He's here to support us with some demos, probably the most exciting part of our time today. And then we're also thrilled to have one of our customers come and share their journey and story with you, Benny Chaco, and we'll bring Benny up here in a little bit. So what we thought we'd do with this time together is share a little bit about Amazon Connect, which is our contact center as a service offering. And in particular, we want to share with you, what are some of the points of value we're creating for our customers, and some of the use cases that you're going to see that might be relevant to you. So with that, let's jump right in. It's important to note, if you think a little bit about Amazon, where we came from, the .com, the retail firm, we are a very large organization that serves the globe. We have millions of customers across 32 countries, and we support dozens of languages. And so if you think about our business, one of our goals, of course, is to be Earth's most customer-centric company. And in order to deliver on that mission, you better believe we take phone calls, and we take interactions with customers, right? All day, every day, we have to have customer service representatives available to interact and ensure that your experience as an Amazon.com user is a pleasant and happy one. It's also worth noting we're highly seasonal here at AWS and at Amazon. As you can imagine, we tend to take a few more calls during the holiday season than the rest of the year. We actually will staff up to 70,000 customer service representatives globally during two peak times, typically. One is the holidays, so call it November through December and into early January. And then we also do that typically around our Prime Day, which is in July, right, where we'll have a lot more retail business happening, and therefore we need to have agents available to take those calls. So this is our environment. I open with this story because it really tells what kind of technologies we need to be able to meet the needs of this kind of environment. So if you asked the Amazon.com retail side of our business, what do they need as a business to ensure great customer service? These are their tenets. This is what they would tell you. They need, from a technology perspective, they need it to be scalable. They need it to be open, simple, and reliable. And it's through this lens that they have evaluated technology over the years and have decided what to use since we've been in existence there in the mid-90s, right? So what's important to note is we were consumers of commercial off-the-shelf ACD and IVR technologies when our company first started. And as we grew, and as you know, some of you know our story, we grew rather rapidly, we were challenged by the technologies that were in place. So just to give you a couple of examples, we use this piece of content because it resonates with our customers. You yourselves may have some of these issues today. You may be dealing with the fact that the tools are cumbersome. The integrations can be really challenging, right? When we're integrating IVRs with ACDs, with recording servers, and on and on and on, to have to manage that becomes a real challenge. There's some technical debt there in terms of the technologies themselves, and then having to keep people in place to keep all that stuff running. Something as simple as keeping the telephony moving, right? Taking calls in, that can be a real challenge. And just the one on the far right, I think, is very appropriate. If you think about technology historically, it was sold as a perpetual license, right? So you'd license number of agents, number of supervisors. And think about the story I just told where we'll go from about 25,000 agents in a normal day to 70,000, and we'll do that for a month. So for us to buy maximum amount of perpetual licensing just for 30 days just didn't make sense. So as we evaluated the contact center marketplace, we came to the conclusion that there's got to be a better way to run this business. And so, very Amazonian, very AWS, sort of similar to many of our technologies, we decided to build our own contact center. And what you have today that we're talking about is Amazon Connect. So this is one of the many IT functions that you can consume off of AWS's cloud services. And just to highlight a few things, it's an easy-to-use cloud-based contact center solution. From left to right, some of the core functions we'll do all of your ACD function. So that's take a call in, give it some call treatment, put it on hold, waiting for an agent, and then route it to an agent. In addition to the ACD function, we'll also do classic IVR function with the application. So that's the ability to bring the call in, give it some call handlers, press 1 to go here, 2 to go somewhere else. Maybe you're going to do some self-service in your IVR, and then potentially send it to an agent. So all that function is a part of what we have here today. And then we picked a few other things just to highlight. So call recording. Call recording it's a function we've had in contact centers for some time now. But what I would mention is one, we make it really easy. So if you do call recording today in your contact center, you may have a few complaints. One is it's really hard to get the technology up and running. 2, if your compliance dictates that you have to maintain those recordings for a long period of time, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, it gets expensive to have all that call recording technology in place. So here's a good example of giving you something you probably already do today, but doing it more simply and doing it at a price point that's much more reasonable. We, of course, want to give you all of the analytics that you'd expect in the reporting. So in terms of real-time reporting, how many calls are in queue, what's our handle time, what's our service levels, we'll do all that. We're going to offer you, again, similar to what you've had today in your contact centers, a lot of historical reporting. So the reporting on the day, the week, the month that you may owe the business, sort of tabulated against all the statistics. And we're trying to do a whole lot more here. And Jason's going to show you some of this. One of the items that's been elusive to contact center leaders is I don't just want to know how many calls I took, but maybe what's been the content of those calls. When my customers and constituents call me, what are they saying? What are they saying to my agents? I'd like to understand that. And if we can automate that technology so that it's not hard to extract that detail, that's great. And so you're going to see a little bit more on extracting the content of the call, which we think is going to be incredibly valuable to you and your mission. And then the last thing on the right is just high-quality voice capability. So, in a lot of ways, ACD and IVR call center technologies have been anchored and sort of tethered to the classic PBX. And that becomes a critical path item for you and your projects, right? Before you can deploy agents, you have to deploy phones. So here we've given an ability to just simply give an agent a computer, a PC, a headset, and as long as they have an internet connection, they can be an agent on the platform. So it helps you scale, and it removes complexity. So really quick, I just wanted to close my piece of content with some of the things that stand out that we try to add as a value point. The first thing I would mention is this is 100% cloud-based. So you'll hear terms like contact center as a service, right? That's what this is, right? You come to the AWS console. As long as you have an account, you can have a contact center pretty quickly, 10, 15 minutes. And the value there is you no longer have the classic technology acquisition piece, right? Procuring gear, it takes time to arrive. You cut a big check to get it. And maybe in a couple weeks, if you're lucky, more like a couple months, you will have technology up and running. Well, here, you can come to the cloud. You can have a contact center literally in 15 minutes time. It's pretty powerful. 10 years of service. So the one thing I didn't mention is, in addition to this being something that we've made available to our customers, we use this ourselves. So in that story I told at the very beginning about Amazon.com, this is the same technology we've been using for over 10 years in our own environment. So it's battle tested in terms of our retail business, and we've now made it available through the web services to our customers. The self-service configuration. So the thing we want to highlight here is you no longer have to run and maintain servers and operating systems and patch those things. You're going to come and consume a contact center as a service, and one of the key value points is you're no longer having to manage the application. We'll do that as a part of the web services. Probably the most important thing we do from an end customer perspective is we offer dynamic, personal, and natural contact flows. It's kind of a mouthful, so let me break that down for you. When customers call in, can I start to interact with them as if I know what they want and why they called? So we're trying to get away from those experiences where you call in and the IVR doesn't know who you are. And so you're pressing one, pressing two, you're working down the menu. Maybe you entered your information. Who loves this one? You enter your information. It says, I see who you are, but I can't help you. Let me get you to an agent. And then what's the agent ask you? What? Same thing. Right? We got to get away from that, right? We've got to get to a point where we've got all these amazing data systems that can keep track of our customers and customer relationship tools and ITSM tools. Let's leverage that in the IVR, and then when we progress this individual maybe to an agent, we've got all that content there for them. And if you think of that, the one example I'll give is if you think of that Alexa-like experience that you may have at home or you've seen the TV commercial, where you're just interacting with Alexa, imagine taking that same sort of interaction and bolting it into your IVRs of the future. And that's exactly where we're able to help you go. Big sort of AWS or Amazonian point, right? We want to make this programmable. The reason this is important to us is we believe it helps you scale. We believe it is going to help you deal with change in your environment. And so we've published and we continue to grow the programmability of this platform, and we've offered quite a few APIs. So in the future, it's not just going to some GUI and making changes. Through software development skill set, you can interact with your contact center. I mentioned the no-hassle telephony from the perspective of not having to have a PBX anymore. The other thing we do is we make sure that this wouldn't be a very valuable service if you could turn it on in 15 minutes, but then we said, hey, wait a couple weeks for your carrier to bring some phone, trunks and phone numbers. So we're not a carrier ourselves, but we do act as a peering partner to the carriers. And what we'll do is we'll handle all of your carrier needs as a part of the service. So your trunking, your trunk capacity, we'll get you new phone numbers, and we'll help you port any of your existing numbers. It's worth noting this is very different than the classic contact center space with the pay-as-you-go pricing. So this is very cloud-centric. You pay for what you use, nothing more. And how it's so different is, classically you were charged for number of agents and number of ports and maybe the feature sets you were running. Well, here we don't do that, right? We simply say if you use the system for a day or a week, whatever your usage was, that's what your charges are, and there is no cost associated with number of agents or number of ports. And the last thing I'll mention is a very robust AWS services and partner alignment. So this is contact center. For those of you that operate in the contact center environment, you know that you need lots of tools to run your business. You might need workforce management to help schedule your agents. You might need quality assurance, quality management tools, reporting tools. You have CRMs and IT service management tools. Our goal is to work with as many of those as we can, not necessarily recreate those for you. So we have sort of a pretty big mantra of let's work with the ecosystem. We've got a big list of all of who those folks are, so you can certainly ask us that, and we'll help you understand who we work with. And it's a big point of the value proposition. The goal is to be open, agile, and extensible. So with that, I'm going to kind of close my piece down in a moment. I'm going to invite Jason up here. Just really the value prop at a high level. We talked about no hardware or space required, so it's truly contact center as a service. The auto scaling, you heard our story. We go from 70,000 or 20,000 agents to 70,000. No required commitments and pay as you go. That's the Amazon way, right? So you don't classically have to sign a big contract with us to use this. You can come and use as much or as little as you want. I mentioned the no hassle telephony. And then last, the customer connected minute, where we really only charge for the application and the telephony on a usage level of a 1 minute rate, right? So very different model than you're used to. So with that, I'm going to tee this up. So Jason Schaefer is our solutions architect. By the way, he gets a ton of credit because it's easy for me to walk through PowerPoint. It's hard to do demos. So I want to thank him for doing this. He's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes, and he's going to bring to life some of what I just shared sort of from a content perspective. And then we're going to get Benny up here and talk a little bit about his experience at LA. So thanks, Jason.
Mike. Yeah, and thank you for the rain dance beforehand. Hopefully the demo gods will be nice to us today and do everything that they're supposed to do. So before I start, what I'd like to ask, how many people here have an IVR today? Anybody? So of those people, how many change that IVR in 7 days or less? Wow, I was expecting a couple more. So when I say less than one, it's going to be, anyone change it less than 1 day? Nice. All right, so one person, right? So this is a problem that a lot of our customers have, is being able, and by the way, can we switch over to the laptop real quick? Oh, perfect. Is a lot of our customers have complex IVRs that are tough for them to manage. They have a third party doing that, so that means they have to go out and contact somebody else to be able to change what's happening. So part of our cloud forward strategy here is to make it where we give you guys the tools for self-enablement so that you guys can go through and make the changes as need. You may not change it in production like myself to test your changes, but you can go through and make all those and wait, test it out before you go. Now, one of the things that as we configure this here is Mike was mentioning that we're cloud focused and we price as pay as you go or as you consume. So everything I'm about to create here, there's no cost to it. So for you guys to be able to go out and take this for a spin and just try it out is all underneath the free tier, unless you get into like some crazy analytics and you're pushing a bunch of stuff through in production. So everything here, you can design your entire contact center at no cost, well, no pricing yet, and then when it's time, be able to cut over. So let's show you how to start that. So this is just a quick example we'll go through. An entry point is something like a telephone number. Like if you were to dial a number, that would point to that entry point there. So if we were coming in, we can see the different things on the left-hand side in which we can interact with. These are all kind of our Lego blocks that we have to be able to piece things together. So you can see interact, set, branch, integrate, and transfer. So let's go ahead, and first thing we may want to do for this person, because we're going to do an idea of someone just hearing something they ask for your PIN. We're going to authenticate someone, right? So the first thing that we may do is we're going to come over here and link the start to our play prompt. We can come over here. Part of the integration of Connect, we have this service called Poly. Poly gives us a text-to-speech. It also has a thing called SSML, which is a markup language to give prosody, intonation, to have a more real human-centric interface versus than hearing something that's vocodish or robotic, right? So we're just going to put something here. Please give me your PIN, right? And so that is what the customer will hear. So what we can do after that is we actually want to get the customer input, right? So we get to that. We turn over and they put the PIN in, and then we'll store that. Actually, I'm going to switch this back, and I'm going to put store input here for this particular one, right? So once we get that, we may integrate and pass it off to our application that in Lambda that is doing our authentication. On success, we're going to go here. Right, so after we're successful, we're going to set up a queue, because this queue is for priority customers, and we want to make sure that our priority customers that know this phone number get through before others do. So in doing that, we are going to branch. Actually, we need to set the working queue. We're going to tell it to go to our advanced queue because our advanced queue has all of our special customers inside of there. We've set that up beforehand. Right? And now we're going to actually branch them off to another queue. Where did you? Oops, sorry. Where is my? Let me interact here. Where did I go? I just missed my line. Now I guess the demo gods aren't being nice to me. I can't find where I'm at here. So, but right here we would actually, transfer and terminate. That's why I didn't open it up here. Transfer to our queue. So when we transfer, we just put a transfer here, success over. Eventually what we would do is, if it's not at capacity, we need to be able to hang up on the person, maybe play an error message beforehand. So this right here represents how simple you'd play a prompt, get the input, pass it over to an application that authenticates them, and then set their queue to work to have them go in. So there's not much to that. That was literally a matter of 2 minutes, 1 minute. You save and publish out here, right? So let me show you just one that's actually working that we're going to use right now. So it's a little bit deeper, has a little bit more inside there. This is something, let me go ahead and zoom out here so we can maybe see just a little bit more. This is a normal application size here, right? This is a demonstration that shows us someone authenticates. We eventually put them into a bot that we'll talk about. And then we can either put them to a queue, we transfer them off service, or we may close the conversation because they're done. But this is our IVR, and this allows us to be able to create customizable interactions with our customers and not have to have a computer science degree to be able to figure that out, right? So with that being said, what I'd like to show you now is a demonstration on more of a conversational UI. So these are a lot of times, if you do this default, you're going to do press 1 for this, press 2 for that. Out of curiosity, how many people have heard of a conversational UI called Lex? Right? So there's other competitors out there in the market as well. Lex is our conversational UI. It's the basis of Alexa. And what that allows us to do, instead of in these flows, say press 1, press 2 for what the intent of someone is, we can have a more natural, human-centric interaction with them. What that allows for is just a more pleasant customer experience, stuff that can be more intuitive. So let me just show you how we can integrate with text here. Pardon my puppy there. So this is a text bot that actually goes back into the flow that you just saw. What we're going to do here is we're going to be able to say hi. We'll get some information from it. But what we can do is, let's do it one more time here, and it comes back with a different message. I can help you with appointments, claims. We want to set an appointment today. Right? So many times we don't want to actually have, if someone's just setting an appointment, do we really want them to get into an agent? We want to be able to deflect them to self-service. So a lot of times today, text is a great way to do that. So we're going to set an appointment here. It actually, as getting better, as Mike mentioned, we want to do intuitive things for the customers. This has done a database dip. I live in Clayton, Missouri. So it automatically knew, based on my phone number, the closest location to where that appointment would be set. So I can either leverage that, I can say no and put my own zip code in. I'm just going to say yes because that's easier for me, right? And I'm going to say next Tuesday, right? And specifically, I'm saying next Tuesday is, today is Tuesday, and we want to understand that there's context about a certain time that's 7 or 8 days from now, right? And what time would like? 5 p.m. sounds good to me. It's typically where I like to take those types of appointments. We get confirmation. We see that it's a week out. We say, yes, this is what we want to do. So you'll see in a minute, too, I'll get an email appointment come through. Then we start going back. This is all set. How else can I help you, right? So what I want to show next is not just the fact that we have these interactions that we can do, but we also, the third-party aspect. So most of the time, your agents today live inside of some CRM, right? Because that's how all of your information and how you interact with them is there. You can see their appointment coming through. Let's go back here just real quick. I'm going to bring up an agent desktop. Let me just go ahead and refresh my page to make sure that everything is going good here. So on this page is actually a setup of just a generic service cloud. You may have seen this before. A lot of people use Salesforce. But this also has the integration with our CTI adapter that allows us to have a unified interface for our agents, right? So when I come back over here, let's go do this, and I say agent. And by the way, this bot, just because I'm texting on here, the same bot, I can talk to it. So and if I was on Connect, it uses SSML instead of plain text. So I have a single unified way of interacting with the customer. So yes, I want to talk with someone. All right, it's going to connect me. And then you can see this is an outbound call right now from our contact center. You're probably not going to be able to hear that, and that's okay. But you do hear my screen pop, right? It popped up Mr. Jason Schaefer. I have this. So I'm going to mute that too. So I just had a screen pop. So I'm someone chatting with a bot. I don't like the answer I got. I just escalated to an agent. The agent just got a screen pop. They can see what I was just chatting about with the bot, have context, and so we have faster time to resolution, right? Less time with the agent, more self-service, and a faster interaction for the person to get their outcome, right? Make sense? All right, lastly, what I'd like to show you guys today is so we've showed you things about people getting into queue. We've seen the flow around bots, getting into agents. Now what about taking surveys? Let's ask this. Who likes taking surveys? I knew there was going to be one. Because probably there's something free at the end. Like, hey, so most people don't like doing that, and I imagine everyone here is a part of that. So what we have is a little demonstration and how we can start sampling information as we go along, right? So what's better if we get something representative of how someone feels, like, yes, that was a 7 out of 10, or if I can listen to what they're saying and know what they're meaning, right, as we're going through it. So Comprehend is a service we have that does sentiment analysis. We can have positive, negative sentiment on what's happening. And we have the ability to stream everything that's happening inside this application. So Mike, if you would, just come up. I think he's going to tee this up and give us some, there's not going to be any audio. We're having a little bit of issues with the audio, but I think what you're going to see on there is Mike is going to be able to describe it.
Yes, so you go ahead and turn it back on here. So I'm going to tee this up here for a second. Why don't you pause for a sec, Jay? So the last thing we want to show you is, we really want to convey two things with these demos. One is that we certainly can do a lot of what you would expect today out of ACD and IVR technologies. And you saw the ease of use to create flows. Jason showed you some of the multi-channel interactions moving from text to a phone call. The last thing we want to show you, and the reason we saved it for last is we think maybe it's the best, is how do we start to grab some of the content of these calls? How do we start to understand what customers are saying to us? And the best part is, to the survey question, I don't have to ask them. For those in the room that do post-call surveys, you know the drill. We don't get a lot of response. Maybe you're lucky if you get 5, 10%, and they're highly polarized. People are either really happy and they're leaving you feedback, or they're really not happy and you're getting that feedback. So sometimes the feedback itself isn't as useful. So what if we could understand what they want without having to ask them to give us that feedback? And that's what these tools are going to show. This is an agent experience. And I'll talk a little bit how we can take the same technology and even bring it to like a summary view of all that's happening. All right. So,
I've been a customer for 2 years now, and I just received a notice that the special pricing I got when I first signed up is about to expire in 2 weeks. I called yesterday and I spoke to Bob.
Let's pause. So that's okay that it's coming through. That's fine. What I want to show you is who you're hearing is that gentleman talking. He's talking to the agent. So on the left, you see, similar to what Jason showed before, there's the agent screen, right, the agent desktop. Near real time, within a couple seconds, let's say, as that call is happening, we have a transcription function running. So that's this first top, right here, sorry, this first, I'm pointing, right, as if you can see. This first top area, this is transcription. And I'm going to tell them to hit play in a second, but what you first should be maybe excited to see is the fact that we can do that pretty much as the call's happening. That's pretty powerful. Perhaps as an agent, English is my second language. So what if I could present to that agent what is being said in their primary language, right? In addition, you see the sentiment analysis happening real time. So here's our grumpy face, right? And here's a little bar. So as if it's not already clear to our agent, this customer's not happy. And the most important thing we're going to do, and you're going to see it happen on the right, is Comprehend does both sentiment analysis and it does keyword search. And so it's picking out the keywords that it's finding, and there's some predefined capability, and then you can customize it. And it's basically determining, based on what this person's asking, what's the right next steps. So let's go ahead and play out another 10 seconds.
I checked your competitor's website, and they're offering better pricing. I plan on switching providers if you can't match their price. Is there anything you can do to renew the promotional pricing?
All right, let's pause there, Jason. So in the last few seconds, what I'll share with you is, so this is an example of a consumer calling in, trying to renew their cable discounted price. And what's great is, over here, I'm basically telling my agent, hey, these are the next steps that we would recommend. This is important. If you have a lot of agent churn, where you have newer agents, they don't know what the right next step is, you can kind of tell them where to go. Sometimes they'll put the call on hold and they'll go grab the person next to them and say, hey, give me a hand. Well, what do we just do? We just took that person off the phone to help me. And we hope they give us the right answer, right? So this, one of the things that's important in contact centers is first call resolution. So if we can help improve first call resolution through technology, this is great, right? And then the other thing that Jason was talking about is, once we're done with the call, if I could keep copies of these transcriptions, of these analysis, they become great tools for the contact center leaders to determine what kind of calls are we getting. Maybe I need to train my agents on some new issue that we didn't realize was out there. And the ability to do this sort of in an automated fashion without having to classically go and listen to all the calls with a supervisor is really powerful. So with that, thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. That was perfect. If we can go back to the slides, what I'd like to do now is turn over the remaining portion of our time to Mr. Benny Chaco. Benny's here as the Deputy General Manager from Los Angeles County Information Technology Services. Benny has completed an Amazon Connect deployment, and we thought it'd be great if you could hear from him, some of his perspective on the evaluation of the technology and how they put it to use. So please help me in welcoming Benny.
Thank you. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Is this on? How's everyone doing today? Good. Good afternoon. So my name is Benny Chaco, as Mike said, and I work for LA County, supporting our shared services practice. And what that entails is one piece is our call center, and then a lot of other services related to website development, GIS, and office productivity. But in particular, what I'm excited about is talking about our implementation of Amazon Connect to you. So let me give you a little context of Los Angeles County. First of all, it's a very complex government service in terms of what we offer. We have about more than 10 million residents that we provide support to. We have about 112,000 employees in the organization and our workforce. And we have a call center that provides not only IT support to our employees, but also is a resource for the public to call in for whether they have questions on different services that we have, or they want to get routed to maybe a courthouse. And so we provide that as well. So not only is it for our own employees who call in, but it's also for the public. So I actually started this role in the last 2.5 years. And when I came into this position, just like in AWS, they're customer obsessed, right? And the same concept I brought in when I came into this position, and it's like, how do we improve our call center operations? So looking at it, we went out and surveyed a lot of different customers, and there was some running themes that just kept popping up as it related to some of the biggest challenges. And the first one, there's a reason it's in bold and all italics, caps, along with some exclamation marks, because this was a constant problem that we had. We had, during peak times, if there was a major outage, we had customers calling in and sitting on hold for up to 45 minutes to an hour. And I knew they were sitting on hold for 45 minutes to an hour because they would finally hang up, and then they'd call me directly on my phone, which started getting annoying after a while, because it was like, I need to figure out a way to solve this problem, right? So not only am I solving a business problem for my customers, I'm also solving it for myself. And then the average hold time for a typical call was about 6 minutes. There was also very limited automation in terms of our call centers. We had a password reset function. It was very kind of, I guess, archaic in a bit. It was put in your employee number, went through some security questions, and then you were reset in terms of your password, and hopefully you're back in business. But that was pretty much all in terms of our automation as it related to that. Just as Mike and Jason were talking about in terms of our customer surveys, that was one of our biggest challenges. So just to give a little context, I work for a department called Internal Services Department, and we provide internal services to the rest of the county. And we have a chargeback model, and we provide that service, and we are always constantly looking to improve that level of service. And how do you do that if you don't know what your customers feel in terms of their experience? And we actually, I guess on the better side, have about a 5% hit rate on our surveys. And I don't know how many of you folks actually, there's two methods, right? One is you can get an email after your call, or you may stay on the line a little bit longer, and they say, if you'd like to provide feedback, please stay on the line. But I can probably vouch for myself, at least, I never stay on the line to give that feedback. As soon as I get my issue fixed, I pretty much hang up the phone. So this has always been a huge challenge for us in terms of getting real-time feedback from our customers. The other challenge that we had was, how do you provide, so if we are dealing with a major outage across the county, well, our phone systems will get flooded. We have all these different employees calling in for a type of issue. And so it requires us, if we want to make any customizations up front to at least let them know there's a major outage, it requires us to go out and get one of our VoIP engineers to do some kind of a blanket message. And so that flexibility of providing real-time information becomes a huge challenge for us. Then call statistics and reporting is difficult to obtain. It requires just extracting that data from our legacy infrastructure was a huge challenge, and we just had some basic canned reports, but after a while, people stopped paying attention to those types of reports. Then legacy infrastructure and high cost of ownership in terms of maintenance. Now, this slide talks a little bit about the volume of calls. So we get about 600 to 800 calls on a typical day during the week. On the weekend, we get about 150 to 300 types of calls. And they vary, right? So they'll vary from your typical IT issue, password resets, email's not working, desktop support, my mobile phone's not working, or you may get the public calling in regarding some kind of informational lookup, or maybe telephone issues. So they vary. So in an annual cycle, we estimated about 41,323 incidents we received in this last year in 2018. And out of that, 34% of those were related to our virtual desktop infrastructure. So we have little brick devices on our employees' desks, and there were about 34% of those calls were related to some type of issue related to that function. And out of that, 23% were resolved with a session reset, meaning similar to when you call your cable company, they say, if you haven't tried this already, unplug your cable box and plug it back in, and hopefully it resolves your problem. So what happens is our agents will try and troubleshoot this VDI infrastructure for about 10 minutes or so, and then finally at the end, they reset it anyways. So these were the type of incidents that we were having to deal with, and then we had a lot of different informational lookup type of calls. So what did we want in terms of a call center type of solution? And we wanted to really do three things. One is improve the customer experience, right? We wanted to reduce the hold time. That, I think, is a basic must-have. Then we wanted to automate the simple calls. So the routine type of calls that we were getting the most volume of, which as we went through our analysis, we looked at and said, okay, that's going to be our password reset. It's going to be something related to our virtual desktop infrastructure, and then something related to the public calling for an informational lookup type of process. So we took those three types of calls and we said, how do we make how do we make this future solution resolve these types of issues? And then we wanted to provide accurate and quick information to our users during any outages and get a better understanding of what our customers truly feel about our services. In addition, we wanted to improve our agent productivity. So in our organization, and I think typically in the IT industry, call centers tend to be a stepping stone into other positions. So how do we retain the staff who want to work on more complex type of issues as opposed to those routine type of tasks? I think that is a huge challenge in terms of what I see as a retention issue in terms of different types of call centers. So how do we allow agents to focus on more critical and complex issues and learn from those as well. And then in addition, we wanted to talk about a little bit about mobility. So Mike and Jason talked about that, about being able to spin up call centers quickly, and pretty much anywhere in the world, you can have access to your call center. And also promoting telework. In Los Angeles, we have a lot of traffic, and we're trying to reduce that congestion by enabling our employees to be able to work from anywhere that's convenient to them. So here comes our solution, right? So we went through, evaluated a lot of different vendors and solutions, and we realized that Amazon Connect really had a differentiation among all the other solutions out there. One is, first of all, I'm referring to our previous call center as a call center, and really Connect is your future contact center, right? Future contact center in the cloud, because there's multiple modes and channels of communication, as you saw, through text. You can do instant messaging and this just your typical phone as well. And we partnered with Presidio, and between our partnership with AWS and Presidio, we were able to really change how the county is looking at call centers and how we communicate and pull in information from our customers in real time. So the benefits of Amazon Connect, I think Jason and Mike did a fantastic job, so I don't want to repeat all of that. But there's a couple of things that I really want to focus on, and in terms of what I think I'm excited about the most, and that is definitely your sentiment analysis, getting real-time information on every single call based on the tone, the word usage, the different patterns of your calls, and now taking that data and making it powerful for our users, and for myself as well as the entire management team, is how do we better serve our customers based on the calls that we're getting. So I think one of my first questions on sentiment analysis is, what if you're happy but you start like saying it really loudly? I don't know how that result will be, so we'll have to figure that out as well. But sentiment analysis is probably one of those features that I'm most excited about. The second is how we can really, I think cost effectiveness is the big thing as well. So as opposed to paying these upfront capital expenditures on infrastructure and licensing, it's a pay-as-you-go model. So with this, and you'll see on my next slide, we've already seen a significant cost savings on this. It's also simple to use. We can spin this up quickly, and we can actually do those kind of messages up front with our own staff without having to escalate to some tier 3 type of engineer. And mobility and flexibility of our agents is huge. So being an internal service provider to the county, we are relied upon during major emergencies, disasters, and providing an infrastructure to the county to ensure that operations continue, right? So this is a part of our continuity of operations planning now. It's becoming a mode of how are we gonna spin up anywhere and providing our services to the county in the event of an unfortunate natural disaster. So I put this slide in here because I thought it was significant. We actually went live in April, and through the calculations of infrastructure, licensing, we're already anticipating a cost savings of about 60% at an annual rate. So this is significant in terms of our investment in what we're seeing as the future of how we want to interact with our customers. In addition, just being live in the last month and a half, we've seen 17% in call reduction because they're no longer waiting for an agent, but instead they're getting their issue resolved through the AI and robotic type of capabilities through Amazon Connect. So just a couple of key takeaways that I want everyone here. If you don't remember anything else I spoke about, here's some 4 things that I want you to take away. One is we're allowing mobility through this product with our agents that can spin up anywhere and get their work done. We're providing a better digital civic engagement interaction with our public because they're no longer sitting on hold waiting for an operator to pick up. We're getting real-time customer analytics and feedback. And one of the things that I actually liked with a demo as it relates to that is, in our case, instead of having offers related to savings, we would have our knowledge base built into that and integrated. So as customers are calling in about different problems, typically we had our agents looking at some other screen for some keywords to look up to see how they can resolve it. But this instead will actually come up and then provide a better call and hopefully resolve our first call resolution issue. And then lastly, we're changing the culture of our agents, right? We want to enable them to really focus on the more difficult, non-routine type of problems and really change the entire culture of how contact center agents work. So with that, I want to say thank you, and I'll bring up Mike if there's any questions as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so let's do this. So we have about 3 to 4 minutes between Jason, myself, and Benny. We would entertain any questions. And then again, we're going to cut loose, though, really quickly at that 4:50 mark because we know we have other sessions for folks to go on to. So you may see us pause, do that, and then we'll stay up here for any additional questions you have. So we'll look out upon the room and see if we're missing.
So here.
So Benny, what were your two biggest challenges?
The two biggest challenges, well, the first one had nothing to do with IT, it was more procurement and figuring out what is the best way to actually get these types of services. So that was probably one of my biggest challenges to deal with is the contracting mechanism and how we go from a upfront capital cost to a pay-as-you-go model. That, and I would say the second one is just the learning curve. We have staff that are used to the infrastructure of what a typical IVR system looks like. So changing that and moving towards more of a call flow and with Lambda functions and some basic programming built into it, I think are some of the two biggest challenges, that at least we've seen.
All right, I see one in the back there. Good.
Did you have to train a trainer or hire additional training staff to migrate from telephony to Connect?
So we have actually 3 components that we're looking at. So you have your IVR, which is all your call logic, then you have the inbound call, and then you have the actual soft agents in terms of what's on their desktop. So we've implemented 2 of those, and then the third one, which we're implementing in the next month, is the soft phone on their desktop. So we're actually in the process still, and so we're going through a change management process with our agents to get them used to it. But the good thing is today, they're already used to talking on their headset and picking up the phone through that software that's on their computer. So this is more of just a change in how they interact with a different piece of software as opposed to how they interact and take calls. So it's the change we're not expecting to be as big as maybe something more traditional.
I was interested to see that Salesforce integration. Is this Connect something that Salesforce does not offer, that sort of functionality, or is it that it better integrates it? Can you talk a little bit more about the integration of Salesforce?
Sure, it's a better together situation. So AWS currently doesn't have a CRM, right? So if you're using, and that's typically where the agent lives in their daily basis, taking notes on a case or modifying some, maybe it's an order or service request they're working on. So it is a marriage that's, that's, I don't know, of equal parts. We need them like they need us, right? So they don't have a contact center solution or telephony portion to it, so it's just really a good match. Is there a specific technical aspect you're looking for, or is it more of just how they play together?
No, I just was surprised that they wouldn't have such capability, but I think it's interesting that there's a partnership between the 2 organizations.
Oh, yeah. Great, yeah.
Here's another one.
Thank you, great presentation. A question on the outbound side. So you have the integration to go to text. Are there any other services for the outbound kind of types of connectivity that you have?
Outbound
and then
is,
on telephone, whether there would be outbound telephone functionality as well.
When you say, so we do have outbound telephony today, and that's really the only modality that we currently support today, outbound. And so is that, where you talking, and your second question, was that focused around outbound from the agent, being able for them to make a call specifically, or I don't know if I understood the second part of the question.
Large volumes, let's say, alerts or running surveys or other aspects in which you have to have a high volume of outbound calling or messaging.
Sure. So are not limited to just Connect to use these types of things. So like Pinpoint, SNS, we have other messaging capabilities that we can use to garner them back into the Connect. So when they are ready to talk to someone, that we can make sure that they have an avenue to do that.
Hey, I'm going to do a quick pause because I know the timer's telling us. So let's do this for everyone that came. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you being here and spending your time with us. And feel free to go and move on. I think there's receptions coming up here pretty soon. And then for anybody else who has questions, we want to stay and answer them. So we're going to step off to the left here, and then just come on up and grab us, and we'll gladly keep talking. So, but thank you everyone for coming.